Hi, my name is Gardner, and I'm going to be talking today about the educational philosophies of Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1706, and he was number 15 of 17 children to Puritan parents who fled Britain because of religious persecution. His parents told him about the importance of education, but because of the financial issues, they were only able to keep him in formal education until he was 10 years old. At 12 years old, he became an apprentice to his brother at a printing company, which became the first newspaper of Boston. Quickly, they found that Benjamin was very good at writing, and he had just a way with words. And by 16, he had started writing letters to the editor, but his brother would never publish because it was his little brother. So at 17, Benjamin Franklin took on the name of Silence Dogood, and he wrote 14 letters over a span of 24 weeks, where he would write the letters as a middle-aged widow named Silence Dogood, and he would write satirical editorial letters that he would slip under the door of his brother's office. Well, his brother would look at them and think they were hilarious, so he printed them, and thus the public loved them because it talked all about colonial problems and what the hypocrisy of the religious hypocrisy and the persecution of women throughout the colonial world that they knew. Well, after his brother found out that it was him writing the letters and not a middle-aged widow, even after several proposals from men who were reading the newspapers, his brother was very angry, and so Benjamin Franklin had to flee to Philadelphia, where he took on another job as an apprentice. While he was in Philadelphia, he became friends with Governor Sir William Keith, and then Sir William decided that Franklin should go to London for a while and try to secure some more printing presses so that they could make another newspaper in Philadelphia. While Benjamin Franklin was in London, he learned all about the Enlightenment, and that is where his philosophy of education was founded. He learned that the Enlightenment undermined the authority of the monarchy and the Catholic Church. Their range of ideas centered on reason and science, and much less the religious structure that they had all known. Their advanced ideals such as liberty, progress, toleration, fraternity, constitutional government, and the separation of church and state were what Franklin found most interesting in his ideas of how education should move forward. When he moved back to Philadelphia at the age of 20, he tried to find more people who were like him in the area, and so that he could discuss the Enlightenment and figure out how he could make it better for middle class America. So at 21, he created an organization called Junto, which later became the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia. He could share and express Enlightenment ideas with others. He was inspired by philosophers such as John Locke and author Daniel Defoe. Reading was a great pastime in the Junto, but most people couldn't read or have books because it was so expensive to print them. So in 1731, Franklin founded the first subscription library in Philadelphia, and he filled it with most of his own private book collection. This way, he felt that middle-class citizens would have the ability to go read and further their own education. Franklin was not in favor of traditional education, but instead believed in student-led education was the key to learning. Most formal education at the time were led by clergy or were supported by the church, and Franklin didn't approve of this. This and other Enlightenment ideas put Franklin at odds with William Penn and all the Quakers in Pennsylvania. But working past the differences of William Penn and the Quakers, he managed to found the Academy, which started out as a secondary school in 1751, but eventually became the University of Pennsylvania. The Academy proposed that students learn English first instead of the classic languages of Greek and Latin. Then, after they mastered English, they would learn a second language, such as French, maybe German, so that they could be worldly business people. This really got the Quakers angry, and the Catholic Church was furious with Franklin for shutting down Latin and Greek. The Enlightenment philosophy was what guided Franklin and eventually had him become one of the founding fathers of our country. You could see some of those Enlightenment ideas even when he was editing the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson originally wrote, "We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable." Immediately Franklin was like, no, that needs to be changed. "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." Not everyone was in favor of Franklin. His friend, he thought he was his friend, John Adams, really had very differing political views with Benjamin Franklin and educational views, because John Adams was a Puritan, like Franklin's parents, and he didn't feel that there needed to be so much separation of church and state. Even long after Franklin passed away in 1790, there were people who were commenting on his life, because Benjamin Franklin wrote his own autobiography, and Mark Twain, the famous satirical writer, made jokes in his story called The Late Benjamin Franklin, where he said that he basically ruined his life, because Benjamin Franklin said, "Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." And Mark Twain said, if it weren't for Benjamin Franklin, we could all sleep in. I think Benjamin Franklin had the right ideas, but I think that some of the ways that he let people learn on their own was not the way that would have led the path of education for others. So I think that my critical view of Benjamin Franklin, even though he was an amazing, amazing person, was that if a bit more structure would have been given to these educational institutions, then they would have had more educated individuals during a time, and perhaps the American lifestyle would be severely different. Thank you.